hi there. It's very, very lovely to be with you. I am in a motorway service car park called Membry Services. It's on the M4 in England, which runs from west to east or east to west. I've just done a day's intensive in Bath, and I'm all fired up, ready for a satsang on how to focus, really, because that's what we're talking about, isn't it, on where you're going. And it's an interesting topic, this one. I've been thinking about it quite a bit as I've been driving along, and I was thinking about how in the last 6-7 weeks I've been spending, when I've been in England, I've been spending a day or 2 or 3 a week at my friend Jaguar's Skills place in the country at the Hideout, because I've been producing tracks, and he's a brilliant coach on where to go with it all, and the sounds to use and all that sort of stuff. And I'm doing various bits and pieces of projects with him and his co-producer, Pre. And one of the things that really, really struck me, and has always struck me about him as a character, was his incredible focus and sense of direction. And it works in such a way that, being one of his very closest friends, I've been away, I think, for a couple of weeks in France or whatever, came back, hadn't seen him for a bit, and they'd been working on producing an album. It was a 7-week job, and they just finished it this week. And it's pretty intense, and it's the sort of thing that would take most people longer than probably 14 weeks to achieve what they did. He's a fast worker. Reason being is that he just completely and utterly focuses, and nothing distracts him. So when I walked in at 11 o'clock one night, having driven, or travelled all the way from Nice, basically, and driven from the airport and so on, with stuff to discuss as well. He knew I'd arrived because you could see me walking past the window. I walked into the studio, and he doesn't turn around. He's focused on the screen. They're both focused on the screen. Neither of them turn around because they're totally focused. And he goes, "Hey, Doc, it's so beautiful to see you, man. It's so lovely that you're here." He doesn't turn around. And I just sort of, lovely to see you too, give him a little kiss on the cheek, sit down, wait, watch them. This goes on for about an hour while they're working. And he starts cracking gags. He's a very, very, very funny man. Brilliant, utterly brilliant sense of humour. He's cracking gags about people criticising, the music, and he kind of puts on voices of people who would be critics and stuff. And it is very, very funny. The kind of gags that make everybody kind of collapse with laughter. And normally, when you do that, you turn around to laugh with the person that's laughing behind you. It's kind of just normal. But he doesn't. He just stays focused, stays focused, and stays focused. And eventually, only when he was ready, did he stand up and turn around and give me a hug. That probably was about 2 hours later. My youngest son, Michael, who's a DJ and a producer, I don't know if this is to do with DJs and producers, really, if it's peculiar to them, if they're just completely self-centered sons of guns, I don't know. But I hadn't seen him. He lives in the States now, and I hadn't seen him for about 3 or 4 months. And the last time I saw him, he's talking on the phone, and it's a business call. And normally, usual people would say to the person, "Hang on a minute, it's my dad. I haven't seen him for 3 months." And don't get me wrong, he loves me. I mean, absolutely, our relationship is amazing. And instead, he carried on talking. He gave me the sign, this is important, with his finger. He put his left arm, he sort of reached out and held me with one arm and carried on talking for about 15 minutes without even looking at me or acknowledging me or anything. And then when he'd finished and he'd done everything he had to do on the phone call, the phone went down and then he gave me a hug. Now, it wasn't, for me, I love that. I absolutely, because I coached him to be like that. Don't be a people pleaser. And that is, I think, what gets in the way of us focusing and of us, having the direction in the first place, and of us focusing, is being people pleasers. We're so concerned to not offend those around us. We're so susceptible to the opinions and the feelings of people around us that might be negative towards what we're trying to do, that we kind of lose our thrust towards where we're going. And I think I've been thinking about this quite a bit. It's an interesting aspect of our behaviour, and I'm talking about myself here. I watch myself and how I go through my own processes. And what I feel is what I've been talking about all day, and really the gist of the most important thing I have to pass on. It's the most important thing I've ever learned in my life. Is that when you're coming from the depths of your being, when you've learned to center yourself in the depths of who you really are, rather than this surface self that wants to please everybody, that wants to fit in, that wants to be part of whatever it is, the club, and be approved and acknowledged as that, you don't have any issue with direction and focus. It's just completely clear. That's the first part, and we'll get to that in a minute. The second part is perspective, and I think this actually links to the first part, because when you're in the depths of your being, when you're centered fully, you tend to be able to zoom out, so to speak, and gain a large enough panoramic view of the situation to put everything in perspective. So that whereas when you're lost in the part of you that wants to please everybody and keep up with everybody, compete with everybody, your view tends to become much more myopic. And with myopia, you don't see past your nose. So it's really difficult to get a sense of direction like that. And the third aspect that occurs to me is that this jumping over technique, so-called, this Taoist magic technique of jumping over whatever obstacle you perceive as being in front of you, is used in many different ways in Taoist practice, one of which is specifically notable in the practice of the Xingyi martial art. Now, Xingyi is a much older art than even Tai Chi. It dates back to the mist of time, and it is a more, to look at, more straightforward art than Tai Chi. It looks more, it doesn't look like karate, but it is more similar to that than Tai Chi for sure. And the name itself, Xingyi Chuan, means mind-focused boxing. And the moves and the intention and the way the body moves through it when you use it, when you practice with partners and so on, is that you basically punch and block right through the opponent. You don't think about them, you think about going past them. So you're trained to gaze into infinity, and when confronted by an obstacle such as a physical opponent, you gaze right through them. Your focus goes right through them. You don't even see them there. You see past them, and that's what you aim for. You aim your energy and your force past them to the other side of them. And it actually creates a pretty invincible force, to the extent that in the multidiscipline martial art contest in the last 30, 40, 50 years or so in China, Xingyi has won about 90% of the contest, as far as I recall. This is a while ago that I was told this statistic, so it might be out of date now. But it has that, if it's practiced properly, it has a very powerful effect. And one of the things, the little games, I might have told you this before, that I've often played for a laugh, is when I'm in London, and I'm in the middle of London in the West End, and I'm anywhere near Oxford Street, which is the busiest shopping thoroughfare in the city. And when it's a busy time, especially, it's fun. It's only really fun when it is busy. And the pavements, the sidewalks are completely rammed with people walking in all directions, fairly mindlessly most of the time, because they're thinking about shopping and talking to each other and so on. I have this game of walking from Oxford Circus to Marble Arch in 4 minutes, which is possible if you stride at a very fast pace and there's no one on the pavement, no one on the sidewalk. And the way you do it when there isn't it, when it's completely rammed and crowded, is you don't look at anyone in the eye. You look past everybody that's coming towards you to the ground behind them. And the amazing thing is, when you do that, they automatically move out of your way. It's quite phenomenal. It's like an energy movement. Your intention is set, so focused on getting past them. Your direction is so clear that you're going past them. And they feel it. They see it. Might not have even seen your face, but they feel it, and they just move out of the way. And you don't bang into a single person. You don't have to say, excuse me, once. And you do arrive in Marble Arch in 4 minutes. That's the game. So I've been doing it for years and years and years, whenever I'm there. I know it's daft and childish. I mean, martial artists do bizarre things. I had a friend who's a teacher who used to go on the London Tube in the rush hour and make a point of never holding on. I do that myself now. So that even when the train bangs around and you would normally get thrown around, you have to use that as your practice to maintain balance. But anyway, this idea of seeing past the obstacle is an extrapolation of the jumping over technique. So then I'd like to look at the idea that when we have real perspective, when we have a big panoramic view of our situation, and we think of our local lives and, how, we really need direction, or we're losing direction, we're losing focus, and you feel all over the place and so on. And you don't really know what you want. You kind of want one thing, but then it's a drag, and then somebody else has said, oh, no, you don't want to be doing that. That's going to be no good. And then you lose your confidence in it, and then you come back to it, and then you think, oh, shit, I've wasted time. I should have stayed with it. And then it doesn't really work out, and then you lose it again, and then you come back to it again, and so on and so forth. And this whole thing becomes quite a drama to which you attach all sorts of significance, such as, why can I not complete things? I mean, I'm talking, this isn't me, I'm talking about just people talking to me that give me their stories all the time. What is it about me that makes me go for things and then not carry on with them? And I don't really know what I want, and why don't I know what I want? And other people are so directed, and so on and so forth. It's because we're not looking at it from far enough away. When you get right outside of everything and you zoom out into outer space and you look down at what's going on here, there's this planet. It's a relatively small planet compared to others. It's a fairly unique planet, an incredibly unique planet as far as we know, in that it's blue and green and got water on it, and it's lush and it houses life. And we don't know so far any other planets nearby that do that, although there are bound to be infinite numbers of them spread out through this infinite universe. But in our local area, as far as we know, there's not much else going on like there is here. Nonetheless, what this planet is doing is spinning on its own axis at 1,000 miles or 1,600 kilometers an hour, and while orbiting the sun at 66,000 or 100 and something thousand kilometers an hour, 66,000 miles an hour, 100,000 kilometers an hour, while the sun is orbiting in a kind of hurdy-gurdy motif around the Milky Way, the galaxy, which itself is zooming through space. So really what's going on is there's this incredible motion of the planet, and we're here for the ride. Now, we make sense of it, we make meaning out of it, we give ourselves like a sense of purpose doing it. But actually what's going on is we're having a ride on a planet. And so the very idea of having direction and thinking it's important is probably a little bit grandiose. Nonetheless, providing we know it's only a game and we don't take the whole thing too seriously, there's really no harm in it. And it's certainly better than being bored or feeling useless. Unless you enjoy that. Some people do enjoy that, and that's okay. In fact, the Taoist ideal is of being so useless that nobody bothers you. And they talk about being like a gnarled old tree that's just so useless because you can't chop it for firewood, you can't carve anything out of it. So people just leave it there, they let it be, and therefore it has great longevity and peace. That's kind of one extreme. So I think it's important when examining or trying to find your focus, find your direction, to not get serious about it. It's got to be seen in the context of having fun, of it being a game. Now, that isn't to imply being superficial or trivial. It's not to imply being a dimwit or stupid about it. It's just that if you come at things with great seriousness, if you come at things as if the whole universe depends on it, it's very difficult to actually get the requisite 4 ounces of pressure. You'll be using too much brute force. Now, the Taoists lay much store in this idea of only using 4 ounces of pressure at any time. Now, that's 110 grams. It's a very light measure. It doesn't imply the actual physical weight. It's metaphorical, obviously. What it means is that you don't use 3 ounces or less, because that's not applying enough of your intention, your focus, your energy on the issue at hand, so that there's not enough there it doesn't feel you partaking. And you don't use 5 ounces or more, because that is symbolic of forcing, using brute force, not respecting the phenomenon that you're transacting with. And the reason it's important to respect whichever phenomenon or situation that you're transacting with is because everything, whether it's a person, situation, any kind of setup you could care to mention, is a manifestation of Tao. And so everything you do is honoring Tao. And when you do that, when you honor Tao in whatever you're doing, the Tao honors you back by looking after you and ensuring that your path leads you to the best possible outcome. That's kind of how it works. It's reciprocal. I mean, it will see you all right anyway, but it won't feel such fun, and it won't be as enjoyable, and probably the circumstances won't be nearly as fortuitous if you're not respecting it. And when you take that to the extreme, when there's no respect at all, and you ride roughshod over others and over the environment and over everything, it bites you back. That's just the way it works. So there's a great store held in treating every situation with utmost respect, because every situation, despite how it appears, is actually the Tao in fancy dress. Now, you cannot only apply 4 ounces when you're getting really serious about it, as if everything in your whole life, your self-worth, your value, depends on achieving a goal. It doesn't. That's very important. We have to know that our self-worth is 100% because we have been made manifest. It's as simple as that. If the prime force of existence didn't want to make itself manifest as us, it wouldn't have done. If it wanted to, it doesn't want things, it's not a person, but if it chose somehow, I can't really put it in any other words, to create itself as you and me, that means that we're worth being created, we're worth being manifested at. Therefore, self-esteem, self-worth isn't even an issue. So we don't have to prove anything by achieving stuff. We are valid, we are loved, we are useful, we are everything that we need to be just by being here. Just by being here, we add our unique essence to the mix. And I think this is important to take the pressure off the whole idea of finding your direction. Then comes, in this spirit of fun and having games, and really they also talk a lot about be like a child. Lao Tzu, who was the most famous Taoist of all, his name translates as the eternal child master. And he apparently knew how to be an eternal child. And again, this doesn't mean being irresponsible. Being a child means being innocent, being free of guile, not playing the adult or adulterated game. So not limiting or capping yourself by trying to fit in, by trying to please people. It means being genuine and spontaneous, respectful to everyone and to everything around you, responsible in fulfilling all of your obligations, your tasks, your agreements, nonetheless moving from the state of childlike, innocent, curious glee, rather than from some contrived, left-brain, logical, rational, sensible, I must do this to gain everyone's approval and get what I want in this world. The way that the direction is discerned best is by what is fascinating you. And what fascinates you generally is felt in your heart area, in the chest, that connected with the belly. So and the fascination might not be for anything highly defined. It might not be for anything particularly focused in any one moment. You might not be able to discern it, but there's a general pull towards a certain aspect of life, which if you're quiet enough inside and if you center yourself enough inside, becomes quite obvious to you. Then whatever it is that fascinates you most is what is going to give you your direction. You could put it another way. You're in a boat that you've been stranded in the middle of the ocean. You've lost your compass. The sky's cloudy. You can't see the stars. You can't see the sun. You have no idea where you're headed for. You don't know what direction to go for. But you feel a pull in a certain direction. You feel it in your heart and your belly. You just intuitively feel there's like an entity pulling you towards it. And then you go that way. And I would imagine, not that I've actually ever been becalmed in a boat like that, but I've read lots of stories about the great explorers and things that happen to them, that this generally would lead them to a destination. It might not be India, it might be the West Indies, but you'll get to somewhere, something will happen. You'll land somewhere. You won't generally be stuck in the sea forever. And it's the same when stuck in becalmed in the sea of life and not quite knowing which direction to take. You have to discern it from inside your heart and your belly rather than from your brain, if you like, or from your logical thought process. And you allow that to draw you. And I suspect that invariably you will be, from my own experience I found it to be true, you'll be drawn to something. And from that something to something else and to something else. But it must be done in the spirit of playing a game. Because we're spinning at this incredible speed through space. That's the real journey going on. That's the real adventure that's happening. And while on this ride, we're afforded the privilege of having fun. We're afforded the privilege of having this amazing story go on. Sometimes it swings one way into the yin, dark, horrible, contractive, nasty space, and then it will swing back into the yang, bright, wonderful, expansive space, neither of which is permanent. Each always transforms into its other. And it helps, of course, to have something to focus on, some place to direct yourself towards. But it doesn't have to be anything specific in terms of an actual physical, material, geographical goal. It merely has to be a state of being that you want to attain. And then once you attain that state of being, the details, the practical details of it will reveal themselves as and when you need to know them. It's a radically different approach to directing yourself through life. And it's a little bit more random and a bit more hurdy-gurdy style, but it's, from my experience anyway, a lot more fun than when you try and direct it along a straight line according to what you think is the right thing to do because it's what everybody else does. And this all depends on being able to position yourself properly inside your body. Now, the whole experience of being who you are in usual states of mind, when reference to what everybody else is doing, what the herd is doing, the fact that you've got to keep up, that you're meant to get a mortgage or get a job or get this or do that because everybody else says you should, because everybody else does, and your sense of either succeeding or failing at that as you go along step by step, and the emotions that that elicits, and then the conversations that that elicits, all go on, conversations with yourself, all go on in the front part of your body. Reason being simply that your sense organs proceed forwards. Your ears are angled forward, your nose is in the front, your eyes are in the front, and so on. So you're aware of what's going on in front of you rather than what's behind you. And what's in front of you is apparently the action, that's the theatre. There's light, there's sound, there's colour, there's movement, there's action, there's people. And so it's very fascinating, and it draws you naturally forwards towards it. And therefore your presence becomes enmeshed with the emotional turmoil of whether I'm doing well or I'm doing badly, and the mental noise of the conversation which goes on in the front of the brain. You're pulled forwards into the drama of being you, in other words. And when you're in there, that's who you are. You become it. That's how it all works. When you merge with something, that's what you are. So you become the drama of not having a direction. You get fully lost in the drama of, gosh, I don't have a direction. What am I meant to do? Or, gosh, I've lost my focus. I need focus, and I'm not focused. What am I going to do? And you know that if you try and correct that from the front of your body, it will only be like taking a painkiller when you've got a headache. If you don't attend to the cause of the headache at some point anyway, you're going to keep getting the headaches, keep taking the painkillers, and that will get worse and worse, and eventually you take more and more painkillers and so on, and that messes your liver up. It's usually the cause of the headache in the first place, and then you really got a headache. So you have to attend to adjustment from being in the back of you. Now, this is all about sinking your presence into your back. It's a very, very simple maneuver. It's a very subtle maneuver. It's not spectacular. Because it's not spectacular, we tend to think it's nonsense, or we tend to think, yes, so what? That's no big deal. It is actually, for me, the biggest deal I've ever encountered. It's just that we're not used to using our minds in this way. But we're allowed to. It's perfectly legitimate. They're our minds. We can use them how we want. And it's our body to situate ourselves in as we wish. So we are perfectly entitled to make this maneuver. And what it consists in is getting used to the idea of leaning back against your own shoulder blades, leaning back against your own spine, leaning back against the rear bones of your pelvis and into your sacral bone, and then tilting your head a bit so that your mind is obliged to slide backwards, so to speak, into the cerebellum, which is like basically leaning up against the rear wall of the skull. The cerebellum, incidentally, is about 100 times more powerful in terms of brain power than the rest of the brain put together. And it's the part of the brain that we least use, at least consciously. And it's been posited for a few decades now by leading thinkers in neuroscience that and human evolution, that it's the development of the rear part of the brain, the cerebellum, that will comprise the next stage of evolution. And we're already seeing the results and effects of that in the incredible increase of people demonstrating psychic power, of the physical skills that we've never been capable of before, like free running or break dancing, just for example, or very high-speed emceeing on shoes, for example. These are things that no one was capable of before. And it's not because people have sat down and thought, I've got to sit in the back of my brain. This is just a natural evolutionary process that's occurring. But we can expedite the process by consciously drawing the mind back into the rear part of the brain, which, when combined with sitting back inside in your body as well, therefore grounding it, grants you what the yogis call siddhis, or magical powers. And one of these powers is known to be manifesting what you want, this Wu Wei, effortlessly manifesting whatever it is you need, in fact, in your life without effort. But you have to have a clear intention about what you're manifesting, what you're wanting to manifest. You have to have a clear intention. In other words, you have to see past the object, the obstacle rather, to the ground behind it, and aim for that, and go right through the obstacle, so to speak, or in this case, jump right over it, and be on the other side of it. That's where your mind, your intention, has to go. And then you make that thing happen. It just does happen of itself. Forming an intention, however, doesn't work as well, I've found, when you specify details, because that limits the whole thing into what you would call spiritual materialism. You're grasping at material effects. You're being lost in the world of the 10,000 things. It works best when in the rear of you, and therefore at one with the big presence that sits in your back, rather than the small presence who scuttles about in the front. When you're situated properly, and you know from your panoramic perspective that there isn't anything particularly worth worrying about, because you're only going to be spinning around the sun whichever way you play it, you're then able to determine your intention in a much broader based way. And as far as I can tell, that would comprise the very best possible is going to result from this situation, from every situation from now on, that you are going to gain and contribute maximum value with every step along the way, that you're going to gain and give where you can maximum enjoyment from being alive and from engaging with the adventure, that you're going to help as many people as you possibly can feel as good as they possibly can, because then you're living in an environment of greater joy, which is then obviously more joyful to you. That you're going to do so in a state of relatively good health, and I say relatively because nobody's 100% healthy, and it's always a matter of achieving at least a 51% balance of health, not just physically but mentally and emotionally as well. And that you're going to be experiencing everything from the biggest, most powerful, most expanded, most enlightened, transcendent perspective possible, because why would you want to experience it from anything less? I mean, that's shortchanging yourself. And that you will contribute such joy and value to the world that when you leave it, you'll leave it a richer place than when you arrived in it. And I think you can't really do much more than that. And that, of course, your transactions with everybody are filled with the maximum amount of love appropriate to each connection. Can't really, oh yes, and that you would be utterly supported materially, that all conditions required on the external level to facilitate your ongoing state of enjoyment of being alive, as just described, will always be provided, and easily, without strain or stress, and that you'll always have enough wherewithal to support you and anyone you need to be supporting, and that you'll stand in good relation to everyone around you and to your environment and to the presence informing you. If I've missed anything out, type it in the message box, but I think that pretty much more or less covers everything, I think. And that would mean that if you've got that as your intention and you see yourself as that person enjoying that reality, you don't have to worry about whether you're going to leave this one or be with that one, get this house or get that house, live in this country, within that country, do this job, do that job. Oh yeah, I didn't include freedom of expression and authenticity and creative magnificence and anything else that goes along with that, but it's implicit. You don't have to worry about any of the details at all. You will be guided naturally to that which will support you best in that state of being. And then, as you can see, I think already, the idea of worrying about direction becomes a bit of a moot point. It's not really necessary. That is the direction. That's it. It's that state of being. Now, that state of being doesn't exist in a place. It exists in you. And it doesn't have to wait for time for it to develop. You can manifest it by turning the switch on right now. It's only a state of being. The only thing that stops it is the interference that you run on yourself from the front of yourself, the ego part of you, that depends on its existence it needs to create interference. That's how it exists. It's there to disturb you in a way. And that's the only thing that will stop you being in that state now. And that's the reason it does practically seem to take time to manifest a state, because you've got to somehow negotiate with that part of you in the front to simmer down, trust you, let go, and allow you to rule the show. But this happens naturally when you come into the back of you. Okay, so I think I've set it up nicely. By the way, welcome to the satsang, and anyone who hasn't been before, I hope you have a beautiful, enjoyable magic session right now. Everyone who's been before, I hope you have a beautiful, enjoyable magic session right now. The results of which, may they be unbelievable and unprecedented for all of us. May we come out of this session so clearly focused on such a beautiful, open-hearted direction, and feel so one with the Tao, the path, that we don't even question a single thing from now on. may it be so. Let us begin. Start off by closing your eyes and claiming your inner space. Be aware of yourself in the front of your body. Be aware of the emotional conflict going on in the solar plexus, the tension there. Be aware of the closing of the heart area to protect you from pain. Be aware of the closing of the throat center and the inability to communicate authentically that produces. Be aware of it. Be aware of the noise in the front of the brain that comes off that incessant conversation with yourself. Just be aware of all of that. Be aware also of how the front of the body, generally a little bit tense because it's quite vulnerable, is vulnerable. There's these soft, big soft areas, and it's quite vulnerable to attack. So be aware of all of that. Just start off with that. Then be aware that you have a back. You have a whole area of you that's behind you that generally you never use. And it's yours, and it's your entitlement to use. And rather than being the bit that doesn't really need to be gone into because it's in the back, this is really the bit that does need to be gone into. This is where the kingdom really lies, or the queendom. So, get a sense of your shoulder blades to start with. Think of your shoulder blades and lean back into them. They're yours, you're allowed, so lean back into them. Then get a sense of the front of your spine and lean back into that. Just feel yourself leaning back into your spine. Then feel your rear pelvic bones and your sacral bone and lean back into that. And then tilt your head back a little bit and let your mind slide into the back of the head, a bit like a cat would slide along the floor if the room was tilted backwards, or a Buddha with your face on it. And be there, sitting in the back of your head, gazing into the beautiful, soothing void between and behind your eyes there, while the rest of you, the physical part of you, is leaning comfortably into your back. And then slow your breathing down. That's going on in the front of you, mostly around the belly area in the solar plexus region as the diaphragm moves up and down. Let that slow down. Stop holding your breath to start with. Let the breathing come really slow and smooth and even and silken and soft and silent. And you'll notice that that gets your whole energy to smooth down and soften down and become more silken, more silent. Let the weight of your head and your shoulders and your chest drop, as it wants to, down into your hip region and into your legs. And get the sense that the lower part of you is now very, very strong and solid and substantial and heavy in a nice way. But the upper part of you is now left free and light and airy. So the upper part is able to channel in the enormity of the cosmos. It's allowed now to be one with that because it's emptied out. And the bottom part of you is able to merge with the power of the ground. And as you know, as I said, the power of the ground is not some inert clod of nothingness, some dull piece of ground. It is this incredibly powerful, kinetically charged sphere, spinning through space at a ridiculous speed. And as you sink down and you let your bottom part be heavy, you're one with that power. Let all the muscles of your body go soft. There's no reason to hold any muscle tight. So you let the hips and the belly and the chest and your back and all the rest of you feel very, very soft. You let your arms be soft. You let your face be soft. You let all around your eyes be soft. You let your legs be soft, your arms be soft. You let everything about you be soft. And you'll notice as you do that, that your energy, your natural elan vital, is moving freely through you. There's no more blocking of that flow of energy because you're soft. You're not being rigid anymore. Lengthen your spine. Get a feeling of the top of the head being pulled upwards towards the ceiling. And that gives you more light in the mind. It makes you more dignified, more upright, more powerful. Broaden or drop and broaden your shoulders because that gives you more breadth across your heart area, so it enables you to be more open-hearted. Raise the breastbone just a little bit because that stops your chest caving in. And now visualize the two parts of your breastplate opening like a pair of sliding doors and revealing in the very core of your chest the beautiful lotus of your love, your beauty, your gorgeousness, your unique essence, the gift that you come here to share with the world. Sweet, fragrant, glorious, beautiful you. And just allow that to radiate freely from your chest to all of the 200 people sitting with us here around the world. And let their radiance, the radiance of their beautiful essence, into you through your heart. So you're nurtured as you nurture. And again, sink right back inside, right back inside. Now, imagine that you can breathe in through your eyeballs and from there into the center of the brain. Now you watch this from the back of the brain. From the back of the brain, you breathe in streams of light, bright light, through the closed eyelids into the center of your brain, which lights up very, very bright light. And then you breathe out from the center of the brain through the middle of the forehead in like a stream of white light. Again, you breathe in through the eyeballs into the midbrain, which lights up really bright and white. And then you breathe out from the midbrain through the forehead out into infinity, a stream of bright white light. Again, breathe in through the eyeballs into the center of the brain, light the brain up, breathe out from the center of the brain through the forehead, and send the stream of light out into infinity. 3 times is enough of that. This will energize your focusing power exponentially. Now, breathe in and see a line of light up the rear of the spine from the coccyx to the crown of the head. Breathe out and see a line of light from the crown going all the way down the front of the spine to between your legs. Breathe in, light up the back. Breathe out, light up the front. Again, keep doing that. As you breathe in and you light up the back, you're refining and empowering your essence. As you breathe out and you light up the front, you're purifying and thereby bringing grace to your essence. So you're breathing in, power. You're breathing out, going down the front, grace. And you now have this activated circuit of light going up the rear of the spine and down the front of the spine. This strengthens and protects what they call your immortal spirit body. In other words, the essence of who you are. And you're in the back of you observing all of this going on. You're also aware from the back of you that your presence is much bigger than what actually fits in your physical back. It actually extends way, way, way back behind you, and way above you is this ambulo, and to the side it's this huge universal-sized being, because that's what you really are. This front part that shows to the world is actually just the tip of the iceberg. It's really just the front of you. It's the person. Person comes from the Greek word persona, which means mask. It's the front. It's the mask. What's behind the mask is the divine, the primordial consciousness and energy of which this universe is comprised. And it's universal in size. And there it is behind you, and you're one with it. Very, very huge being. Now, in this state, this enlightened, transcendent, universalized state, so to speak, visualize in front of you a mountain range. This mountain range is built of all the misguided beliefs, the people-pleasing beliefs, the susceptibility to being thrown off course by criticism of others or aspersions that people cast on your plans, or the jealousy of others, or the competitiveness of others that gets in your way, the lack of confidence, the lack of self-esteem, the lack of persistence and determination, the lack of strength, the lack of stamina, the lack of endurance, all those negative facets that would otherwise block you having a clear direction and being able to just gently but persistently go for it and it evolve into manifest reality. So the mountain is comprised of all these blocks. Now, in your superhuman primordial state, you are capable of anything. One of the things that you're capable of which is to be able to jump with one leap and a bound over the entire mountain range and land safely, all intact, on the other side, having got right past the obstacles, and thereby having landed in the state you want to be in. So see yourself turn away from the mountain like an athlete, just enough so that you can turn around again and take a short run up. Now turn around, take a short run up, and off your strongest foot, take one massive leap, and it's as if you're flying. You just go off like a rocket right over the mountain. Then if you're a bit scared of heights, enjoy the thrill. Feel the air getting thinner as you get higher. Feel the coldness of the air. Feel the rush of the wind on your face. Feel that sense. It's almost like G-force. You get over the peak and then feel that amazing sensation of going down the downward trajectory of the arc, and then landing miraculously on your 2 feet without a single jolt to any joint in your body. Just landing like a bird or like a cat. Perfect. And you're there. You take a moment to settle, to let the energy settle inside of you, and you look back at the mountain and you think, wow, I have jumped over all the obstacles that were blocking me from having an absolutely clear direction, focus, and ability to manifest whatever it is I want now. Whew, I've done it. Look at that. And you notice that you feel much, much lighter, much clearer, much freer. Now, in this state, look in front of you again and see before you, spread out all around you, a scenario of your new life. You can have anything you want. You can make it as wild as you like. Use your imagination freely. Be an artist. You can change the picture as often as you like, so there's no commitment to it. Just see it now. And this picture, no matter how you detail it or people it, is merely a symbol to express the direction that you're moving towards. And I would advise to make it very beautiful, very lush, really colourful, really warm, really inviting, really sweet smelling, with a sense of great harmony, but not dull, not boring, not sludgy, not blobby, really beautiful and intensely alive and exciting and exhilarating and rewarding. And see yourself in it there, feeling excitement so strong that it's making your face tingle. See yourself filled with such enthusiasm walking towards it that there's nothing and no one that could actually stop you carrying on in that direction. And in fact, there's a sense that everyone in your life will naturally gravitate towards wanting to go there with you or want to follow you there. See yourself moving towards that scene until you're standing right plonk in the middle of it, with beautiful bright light shining down on you, feeling incredibly blessed and warm that you've manifested a completely new realm of existence for yourself, which you were always going to. It was always in your destiny, but you had to rise up to this moment and make it happen. And here you are, you've done it. You've left behind you all the blocks. You've jumped right over them. And here you are. Feel the sensation in your face. Feel your eyes bright. Feel your chest strong and powerful with the love of being alive. Feel your belly completely relaxed and warm and powerful, grounded, centered. Feel yourself feeling incredibly powerful in every single way. But this is not the sort of power that rides roughshod over everybody. To the contrary, this is the kind of power that feels that you want to be completely effusive with your compassion, with your love, with your care for everybody, as if you're the big mama or the big dada and you're holding everybody with you. You're carrying your whole human family with you into this beautiful new realm. Feel the sensation throughout your body. And then bring your physical self so big that it encompasses that version of you, so that that version of you is inside of your body right now. It's inside of you. We've dispensed with the scenario, we've dispensed with the mountain, all that game's gone, and here you are embodying this new self, and it's in you. This is you now. You're exhilarated to be alive. You're excited being here. You know that there is nothing that can stop you now moving into your new state, your new being, your new realm of life. The magic is done. Stay in your back, be aware of all your brothers and sisters on the planet, all of us here in this group, and then everybody on the planet, and all sentient beings of all shapes and sizes, even the tiny insects, all the way through the universe, not just here. Get the sense of all entities being blessed by this moment. Everyone is blessed, so it's a hallowed moment that we're conducting. And then in your own time, very slowly, wriggle your toes and your fingers and your eyes and your nose and come back into the waking state, so to speak. And it's question time. So I hand us over to Sue and to conduct that Q&A session.
Hi Stephen, hello everyone.
Hi.
We only have one question pre-submitted so far. So if you would like to ask a question, you can do that by typing it into the question box and I will read it out for you. So the one question we do have, Stephen, is from Jennifer in Australia, and she says, I'm procrastinating about starting my own healing practice. Could you help?
Yeah, stop procrastinating. Yeah, you sound nice with the cold, Sue. It's a nice husky tone to the voice it's giving you there. I think procrastination is not necessarily a bad thing. It might just be that you're not really ready to actually begin yet, and you know that, and so it's not time, but you're probably beating yourself up because you think you should be starting now. Or maybe it's not time to start now. And I would suggest that you would visualize yourself, say 3 months from now. I don't know which stage it would be best to visualize, but perhaps opening, whatever it looks like to you, opening the doors to your practice, or putting the word out that you're now ready to go and you're now charging for doing whatever you're doing, this is what you're doing, all the rest of it. See yourself in 3 months perhaps, looking really like excited that you've done it, that you've actually gone and done it. In other words, jump over the mountain that's blocking you there from doing it. Be on the other side in 90 days, starting your healing practice and going, wow, this is fun, this is great, I'm enjoying this. That kind of idea. And then you just relax into it and you keep seeing that. You see it often, only for a second or two each time. And you might want to kind of give yourself an affirmation that I'm free to do whatever I choose. I've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. Everything's fun. It's just a game. I'm enjoying this. It's fun. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like doing, and that's going to lead me to where I need to be, or whatever it is you need to tell yourself. And you'll probably find that within 90 days, you'll be at least at the next stage of it. But I wouldn't beat yourself up. That procrastinating thing is often because it's not actually time to start it yet. And I think once you give yourself permission to procrastinate and to start the thing when it really urges you to do so, that tends to usually dispel procrastination anyway. That would be my advice in a nutshell for that one.
Okay, Natasha's commenting on the meditation, and she says, I actually sort of passed out during that despite not being tired. Will that affect the effectiveness of that visualization? Love from Natasha.
Yeah, it will make it actually stronger. That's called, when people do hypnotherapy, that's referred to as the hypnagogic state. And it's actually the desired state. When Natasha, when I was living in New Mexico, I took a course of psychic development, and it was a 12-week, 3 nights a week course. It was quite intensive, and we covered everything: psychometry, clairvoyance, everything, the whole lot. And every week he would say, lie on the floor at the end, and I'm going to take you through a process, and this is what's actually going to develop your thing. It's going to get it to open up for you. And I fell asleep in every single one of them. And at the end of it all, it's not a show-off thing, but I was the most advanced of everybody in the class. The other people had actually stayed awake. I was the one that got it most from that. And he reckoned it was definitely because I'd fallen asleep each time. I think it's not really sleep anyway, is it? It's much deeper than that. Your subconscious is feeling it, is hearing it, The unconscious, the conscious has gone out of the way. So it's actually better. I think you'll find that it will have a deeper effect than if you'd have been awake throughout.
Well, it's a very quiet day today, Stephen, because we haven't got any more questions or comments.
Well, I have to confess, I'm glad to hear that, because I did run on quite a lot with the old rap there. I've got a bit of verbal diarrhea at the moment. So I'm very excited about my direction in life, and I just want to say to you all that magic is not something special or different from the rest of life. The whole thing is magic. All of this is magic. Frishoff Capra, as my good friend reminded me recently, was saying, as a physicist, when he wrote the Tao of Physics, in which he compared quantum physics to Taoism. He wrote the book in the mid-70s, as I recall, saying that everything is essentially chi, same as the quantum physicists say now. The whole universe is essentially energy. And energy, or chi, is imbued with consciousness naturally, or an intelligence, if you like. And matter, the material universe, that which is made manifest, including all of us, was actually merely a snag in the field. It wasn't the intention, if you like. It wasn't meant to be, or it was meant to be, but it wasn't like the Tao. The Tao wasn't a person that sat there and thought, right, I'm going to create a universe, as our Western religions suggest it worked like. It was just like, it just was, it just is. It's a field of chi. And it got snagged because anything, once it's put in motion, will attract snags and glitches. That's just the way of reality. And this material universe is one of its snags. And all of us are just one of its snags. And it's a very interesting way of looking at it. The other way of putting it, as the Taoists would say, is that none of this actually exists. The whole thing is a dream. The whole thing is a complete and utter illusion. And therefore, we're all free to change the illusion as we wish. And what we've just done is that. We've just completely changed the illusion. It's no more valid than the illusion we had before. It's just a different one. And we're free to change it again and again as many times as we want. I think you'll find the way that we changed it tonight will have a fairly profound effect on all of us. And as I said at the beginning, my wish is that we will all go from this session feeling subtly but definitely much more focused, with much more sense of direction, much less concerned about pleasing those around us. Yet, by following the direction, finding ourselves pleasing those around us much more, so that everybody benefits. That's my wish. Let it be a week of quantum leaps and miracles for everybody.
I've got a couple of just a couple of comments before we close up, Stephen.
Yeah.
David is saying, "Bless you, Doc. Loved your energy today. Thank you for a wonderful session as always."
Thank you, David. Bless you too. Thank you.
And Inga says, "Hello. No verbal diarrhea. It's right on the mark. Really speaking to me."
Good. Thank you.
So nice to be with you. Great satsang.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been sitting here the whole time looking at a Starbucks coffee thing, thinking, gosh, I'm so looking forward to having a black coffee after this. So I am now going to go and have a black coffee and poison myself. And it's been really, really, really lovely. Thank you, Lord. Bless you. It's going to be a beautiful week. I know that. Come next week for the last one in this series. It's going to be a wingdinger. Okay. Bless your hearts and bye-bye.